There are four types of loneliness that I'm aware of anyway. The first one that I recognise would be the desert island one where, Tom Hanks talking to his coconut or something like that. I mean, most of us aren't in that situation, of course. We are so separated from other mankind that we don't, that we're lonely. That probably doesn't happen a lot. The second one is intellectual isolation. And intellectual isolation occurs when you're interested in a whole range of subjects, but no one around you is interested in those subjects. And that might be, I don't know, pick some science or philosophy or something like that. And everyone else is just talking about, cars and kids and other stuff. So you get that sense of isolation there. You pick me for that one sometimes. The third one is a fairly common one, which we're not really going to address today. I will in another video. And that's social isolation, where you're in a large group and you might as well not be there. You just feel isolated. There's no one to talk to. They don't talk. It's a little bit related to the one before that. But it's a complicated one, and I will address that because there's so many other things that are involved, including anxiety and differences in intellectual abilities and educational differences. There's a whole range of things to be sorted there. So I'll talk about those a little bit more, but in a different video. But this particular one we're talking about today is the most common one, and that is the one where you just don't have many friends. You just don't have any friends, or feel that you don't have any friends. And this is a real pain in the ass. I mean, frankly, that is awful. Talk about instincts. Loneliness, I guess, when you're thinking about it, that's the ache of feeling alone or not feeling part of your tribe or having a tribe to belong to. And in a way, that would make good genetic sense, because if you're out on the plains of Africa and you didn't want to be a leopard's lunch, being with the tribe would be the best option. So those people who had a strong desire or an ache to be part of the tribe are the ones that survived to make more little people with an ache to belong to the tribe. And so you can thank your ancestors for that. Think of that ache of loneliness as a well-intentioned motivation to get you back into the tribe. And even though you might have to go through certain social rituals, which are a bit of a pain in the ass as well, and you may not be a natural, so none of this is necessarily comfortable, but you do what you have to do. Now, if you are thinking to yourself, well, other people have got plenty of friends, why don't I? What's wrong with me? Well, why is it that I don't have any friends and others do? Well, fortunately, I can tell you what the answer to that is. Not much. There's nothing much wrong with you at all. You're probably quite normal. Because loneliness is just one of the issues we face, there are so many others that can be intertwined and are intertwined with it that you just have to be aware of, even though we're not going to do anything with them today. But things like social anxiety and fear, just general unhappiness, lack of money, not owning your home, isolation, depression, abuse, trust, feeling unloved, I mean, on and on and on. The lack of self-confidence. There's just so many other emotions that can be intertwined with this feeling of loneliness. But the short question, of course, is if I have a whole bunch of friends, will that do anything to fix my loneliness? And the answer is hell yeah. If you've got a whole bunch of friends, yeah, you're not going to feel lonely. Well, not to the extent, and maybe for one of the other reasons, but not because you got no one to talk to. It won't be for that reason. I don't know if you've ever heard any of that really well-intentioned advice. Well, just go out and make some friends, or join a club and make some friends. Really? Is that easy? I don't think so. How do you go about that? Well, see, there is a way to do it. There are ways of doing it, but you can't force someone to befriend you. So even though I can show you, and I will show you shortly, how you can go out and get yourself a whole bunch of friends, you need to be aware that just having a whole bunch of friends is not going to solve all four of those types of loneliness that I just mentioned. It's going to solve the problem of not having some friends to hang with. So when you think about the word friendship, most of us, even though we all know what it means, most of us would struggle if we had to suddenly on the spot be called up for a definition of it. It's not real. It's a complicated issue. Friendship is very complicated. And I made a discovery some years ago, which actually was one of the driving forces that led me to write my book, Sweet Life on the Sour Budget. It was that the self-discovery that friends do come in two flavours, as you would expect intuitively. You say, yeah, well, I got friends, so I get close friends, and then I've got acquaintances. They're my two categories. But it came as a bit of a shock to me when I realised that there's another pairing which is much more effective, much more useful in having an understanding of your friendships and how you can avoid being injured and hurt and offended and made angry and all that sort of thing by your friendships. And that's by changing the pairing from acquaintances and friends, and you change that to to friends and of friends. Now, to friends and of friends. People who are a friend to you or a friend of you. So if you had a friend of you, for example, someone is a friend of yours, it doesn't necessarily mean he would do anything for you or she would do anything for you. They're just a friend of yours. Think of it as, you could bastardize an old joke that an of friend would lend you his truck, but a to friend would help you move the body. Right, so you know what I mean? There's a difference between those sort of friends. And what stunned me really astounded me actually, was that I've discovered when I started sorting through all my friends and acquaintances, and there's a lot, the number of people in both groups that were out of sync. In my close friends, there were plenty of them that wouldn't give a blind duck a push into a pond. So they're really just people that, even though I like them, we get along well and we spend time together and all the rest of it, I know that they wouldn't do anything much for me unless I paid them. Yeah, they're not friends to me, they're friends of me. And as well, I discovered there were acquaintances, people that I didn't know particularly well, that I remembered have done things for me that were quite voluntary. They, I thought, wow, this is really interesting that they're two different types, and it's not the business of friends and acquaintances at all. It's the difference between to and from. Now, when it comes to solving the loneliness problem and having friends, the interesting thing is that it doesn't matter what type of friend they are. I mean, it's helpful if you know, because it helps you with your relationships and understanding them, but it doesn't affect the loneliness issue. You can solve the loneliness issue with both types just as easily. And that's because friends, anybody, when they want to enjoy their toys, their experiences, their holidays, they don't want to do it on their own. Friendship is essentially selfish. You have a friend because it's in your interest. You're happier. It makes you feel better to have friends and someone to share it with. So the point is here that you can have friends that just ordinary friends and that sort of thing, perhaps wouldn't go out of their way to help you to do anything much. But when they want to do something, they are going to be looking up their friends list to have someone to come and share it with, someone they can show off to at the very least, someone they can brag to or show their, they might have a yacht or a boat or a plane or something, or going on some trip or whatever, but they need someone to be there to witness it or to be there. And you can be the beneficiary of that. It doesn't matter what type of friend they are, as long as I don't mean friend, I don't mean enemy, I don't mean someone that you can't stand. So to get that companionship from these people, it doesn't really matter what type they are. Now, we're going to talk about friendship in a lot more depth. I can't cover it in one short video. It's a very complex, matter of fact, it takes up several chapters. There's a lot in the subject of friendship, because that bleeds off into love and trust and other relationships. So it's not an easy subject you can just flick through in 10, 15 minutes on a video. But we will address them. So you don't have to race off and go to Amazon and buy a copy of the book or anything. If you're just patient, we'll come to that and we'll discuss that. We'll discuss that in due course, and we'll talk about a lot more. But the main thing, of course, we want to know is how. I mean, that's why you're here, right? That's why you want to talk to me, and I'm pleased to tell you the way that you become. That you acquire these friends is incredibly, surprisingly simple, and it even seems trite and obvious and real. Oh yeah, okay, yeah, I could have figured that out myself. Well, it really is as simple as to be a friend. Now, okay, you say, all right, that's easy enough, but I could have figured that out. The important thing here is to understand why it works. Well, first of all, what you have to do, but we'll get to that, what you have to do. But why does it work? Well, people, you and me and everyone else, we recognize people when we talk to them. Are they an acquaintance? Do they act as an acquaintance? Yeah, acquaintances have a certain way of acting, there's a certain distance between you, chat about things and go on your way. That's acquaintances. You've got enemies. Now, they may generally, you can pretty much get a signal from them about whether or not they like you. So enemies are easy to communicate, and friends are the same. So when people are your friends, they act in a certain way. Now, here's the trick. If you act, and I don't mean pretend, but I mean really act, genuinely act as a friend to someone, even though they might just be an acquaintance. They don't have to be some close buddy that you've known for 20 years. If you act in the same manner, do the same things that a friend does, very quickly they start to classify you as a friend. No, not consciously, but we're all human. That's what we tend to do. We subconsciously categorize people, which is another subject too. We're going to come up in a video as well about judging and being judged and so on, which is really fascinating. But yeah, people will accept you as a friend at face value because that's the way you act. So that means that you do things that a friend does. Now, I just want to be absolutely clear here. I don't mean acting as in acting like an actor on a film or something like that and pretending. I mean actually go through the actions of a friend, be a friend, for real, a genuine way. Sure. Okay, there might be a bit of skepticism, true. And that's particularly because of ulterior motives, particularly between the genders. I mean, if you're male and female and that sort of thing, obviously there can be ulterior motives and so on. You have to make that abundantly clear. You're just acting as a friend. That is it. And your fair income, it's genuine. But what is it that you do exactly when you act as a friend? Well, here are some of the ways that you do it. Some of the ways that I do it, at least. When I meet someone who I want to be a friend or who is a friend already, I leave no doubt that I am pleased to see them. Again, I'm really pleased to see them. I greet them with enthusiasm, with a smile and a laugh. And people like being around happy people, and especially happy people that like them. That's a big buzz for them. And of course, there's a spin-off benefit in you too in acting this way, because we tend to feel our actions. It's a straight connection between the way we act and the way we feel. And if we are acting in this happy and enthusiastic and cheerful way, pretty soon, I mean really soon, we start to feel that way too. So we get a buzz out of it as well. But they don't. They immediately recognise you as that. And I mean, you have to be enthusiastic and happy and that sort of thing. But I mean, you don't have to bark or jump on their lap or wag your tail. They, fortunately, they can understand that you are carrying out those actions as a friend. A friend, when you talk to a friend, they are hoping that you'll have something good to say, something positive to say to them, about themselves, preferably, to ask them about themselves, to ask them about their interests, the things that interest them, not yourself. You're not talking about you, you're talking about them. You forget about talking about you. We'll cover this in some more detail at another time. But forget about talking about you. You're talking about them. So it's about their interests. And one good one, this is a simple little tip, is to, when you talk to them, the second time you talk to them, or you've spoken to them a few weeks before, whatever, try to recall something that you were talking about last time you saw them. Doesn't really matter. The point is that if you bring that up again, something that they were talking about, something that interested them 2 weeks ago or a month ago or yesterday, they are really pleased that you have remembered them. You were placed enough importance on them to remember the conversation. They feel, they feel a lot for you. They are grateful. They mightn't know that they are, or they mightn't realise that that's what's happening, but they are very grateful that someone has taken the trouble. They're interested in them enough. You might also do a couple of other simple ones. Issuing an invitation is a really good one. You know, like, I'm going into town tomorrow and that sort of thing. If you want me to pick up anything in town, offer to help, or we're going fishing in a couple of weeks' time. If you're interested, we'll probably have a spot on the boat if you want to come. Issuing an invitation, offering to help. These are all the sort of things that friends do. And if you go through those actions, genuinely, fair income, proper actions, then you will be recognised by these people as a friend. When they want to go and share their good fortune with friends, you're going to be on the list. Now, you're not going to get a call every time, but you are going to be on the list. At least you're going to get consideration. Now, if you have a relatively small circle of acquaintances, they're probably more than what you think. You can even be really anal about it and start writing them all down. There's a hell of a lot of acquaintances you probably already have. Don't be too picky about them. Pick out a whole bunch of them that are at least not too grumpy, and act as a friend to them. You don't have to do anything else, just act as a friend. And you'll be surprised how quickly they start to come to consider you to be a friend. And at that point, you'll start to get a better feel for getting past this whole loneliness thing, because you'll have people to talk to who will be pleased to see you because you're pleased to see them. And you've got this connection now. And it's a connection that you made, and it's simple to make. You could do that easy. It's not terribly difficult. The takeaway from this video, really, this is a short video, but just touching the important bits and fixing the problem, at least getting a start on fixing the problem. The takeaway is that you need to act as a genuine friend and do the things that a genuine friend would do. There is a little bit of a warning about this, and there's another subject that I discussed in some detail, and that's the subject of partnerships, which go into life partnerships in terms of love and who you share your life with and so on. And I've actually got some expertise in this area, having been in a life partnership with the same person for more than 50 years. So I know a little bit about it, but that's a whole subject. But just a little warning that there are people who don't want to make the effort to make a lot of friends, but they'll end up with a life partner or someone they can convince to be a life partner. And then say, oh, well, I don't have to worry about loneliness anymore because I've always got that person. And I've always got someone, to go to things with and someone to talk to and that sort of thing. Don't do that. Don't do that. You need lots of friends. To be in the tribe, you need to have more than one friend. And your life partner shouldn't have to fill both of those roles. I'm just telling you. This is something that you think about. Now, just to close out on this brief subject, intimate friends. In some ways, I think it's almost humorous, but on the subject of life partners, best friends, intimate friends, and so on, which we will dive into a lot more, there's a number of misconceptions, emotions, and dangers, and we can't treat all of that here today. But there is one fascinating thing that I think is funny in a way. There's a psychological effect that happens to us all when we're in very close proximity to someone. I mean, very close to someone, physically, very close to them. The psychological, it affects your brain. And You've all heard of the hairdresser syndrome, where the hairdresser who's up and close, very personal for an extended period of time, is on the receiving end of some rather intimate information which they were not privy to. And it's just something to be aware of, that if you're in close proximity to someone for a fair length of time, bear in mind that it's better to keep some of that more intimate stuff to yourself, stuff that you wouldn't say normally, that you can be induced to do that in that more intimate surroundings. It seems, now to think about it, it seems that we are both the victims and the beneficiaries of our ancestors, their instincts and their genes. And not much we can do about that. That's just the way it is. Anyway, we'll catch up in another video soon. By all means, if you want to check out some of the other videos, some of these subjects really take a lot of work to go through and tease out, and I think they're interesting as well. Anyway, that's it for today. See ya.